welcome to all our participants today. Uh, the title of our webinar today is Funding Your Child's College Education. Um, Higher education is always a question mark when it comes to studying abroad for certain courses. And our speaker today, Prashant Bhonsle, is here to do just that. Prashant has over 2 decades of leadership and entrepreneurial experience across banking and financial services, IT, office automation, telecom, FMCG, and pharmaceutical industries. Uh, he aims to ensure that no talented Indian student has to give up on their dream education due to financial issues. This is his sound of opportunity. Uh, Prashant is currently the founder of Kuhoo Edu FinTech, which works on bridging the gap arising between student aspirations and reality due to financial hindrances. Uh, Earlier, Prashant was a CEO credit in credit student loans and groups, and country head at HDFC Credila Financial Services Limited. Uh, Before we begin, a very warm welcome to Prashant. And we also have Maheshwar Perry of Careers 360, who will be beginning this conversation with Prashant. Go ahead.
Thanks, Gauri. Thanks, Gauri. Thanks, Prashant. By the way, while we introduce Prashant, one of the things I must tell you is that if there is someone who can think of education loans and has been a pioneer in terms of anchoring that for HDFC and taking it through and making it as big as a portfolio as it is Prashant. So I look up to Prashant a lot in terms of education loans, because I think funding of education was not the same 20 years back as it is today. The cost has increased as much as the cost of loan possibly has decreased in a certain spaces. It's become a bit more nuanced as a product for any student to take. And the dilemma that a student always has of whether they must take an education loan or seek an opportunity which is of less expense is always a big dilemma that students go through. And I'm hoping that Prashant, by the end of the session, all of us would be wise enough to understand whether we should take a loan. If we have to take a loan, how much should we take it, and what are the kind of terms that we must agree on? The broader questions that a student and a parent is normally trying to answer for themselves. I'm hoping Prashant will answer for that for us. Thank you so much, Prashant, for joining in. Over to you.
Thank you, Gauri, and thank you so much, Mahesh, for those kind words. I'm not sure both of you have put me on pedestal, which I don't know whether I deserve, but thank you so much. We have known each other for a very, very long time, Mahesh. I admire you as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest student platform that I've seen have survived all the business cycles and turmoils and still continue to add value to Indian students. It's amazing how you do it continuously, incessantly, with the kind of passion you have. So I genuinely look up to you for all the entrepreneurial guidance in this solo flight of entrepreneurship. So thank you for inviting me. This is our privilege and pleasure to get associated with you and Careers 360 in particular. I'd like to begin with a quote and with a little bit of background on why I am here and why we are doing what we are doing, is because I come from a very humble background. I come from a small town, a place called Indore, and I used to be a good student, and I aspired to go abroad, and I could not, despite getting admission into some of the very good universities abroad, and that's going back about 25 odd years. However, I could not realize my dream because the family didn't have money, and nobody was no bank in India was ready to give me a loan and take a call on me. So it is a very personal cause for me, and so that's why, despite having a large experience in financial services and across different industries, I came back home, as I see it, to start a student loan company in India all over again, and this time driven by passion of providing the best in class product and using technology, data science, so that the most Indian students can be benefited. I always remember this quote by Benjamin Franklin: an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And words can't be more true, right? Because I have seen lives changing lives for 15 years of my association with students, colleges, academic institutes, and parents. I have seen a lot of lives changing of very talented Indian students who came from lower middle class to middle class families, and still could make it big in either in India or abroad, because they got lucky and found access to education. And I've also seen a lot of Indian students, very, very talented, could have done wonders if they had opportunity to go abroad, just because they could not find access to finance. So this is a very personal passion for me, and I hope I'll be able to solve some of your questions. Let's keep going, Anusha. Next slide. One of the basic question is that nowadays almost every parent, for last at least 8-10 years that I know, the awareness is much better about education. Is the costs are going up, and a lot of Indian parents start planning for child's education much earlier, and that's a very, very good news, because that saves a lot of troubles, heartburns, and later on dropping your plans or settling for lesser plans or lesser university, lesser course, just because the cost is higher and it's prohibitive. So things have changed for better in last about 10 to 15 years, since the time I started India's first student loan company in about 2007. There were only about 560 universities and about 11,000 colleges in India, and today there are close to 1,000 universities and 50,000 colleges. So the number of Indian students have increased and the number of colleges have increased, and the cost is going up drastically. And that's why it is important to plan, and then you get a major economic or climatic events like pandemic or some sorts, and world economy goes into a tizzy, and everything, inflation goes up, and so on and so forth. So why plan now and always plan is because, let's go, Anusha. Because in last about 15 years that I've seen, the cost of education is almost increased every year by 10%. That means I remember in about 2004 and 5 or 6 and 7, when I was starting Credila, the cost of a MBA in IIM Ahmedabad used to be about 3.5 lakh rupees for 2 years. It is about 30 lakh rupees now. The cost of ISB education in about 2008, 2009 was about 15 lakh rupees or 13 lakh rupees. It is about 30 plus lakh rupees now. Engineering colleges, the cost used to be few thousand rupees every semester, and it has gone to about anything between 1 lakh rupees to about 3 lakh rupees per year or so. So the costs have been perpetually going up, and this is only India education. Medicine is the medical education is almost catching up with the education abroad, actually. Then if you go to I've tried to map what will happen when in the next 10-15 years. The cost of MBA might go up to about 80 lakhs to about 1 crore rupees. And it will become almost impossible for middle class family people to afford a good quality MBA or good quality medical education or engineering education and law and so on and so forth, right? Abroad education, I remember now, the abroad education cost, the tuition fees itself is, there are different, about 700,000 Indian students go to about 30 plus countries across the world for finding that higher education degree that they aspire for, right? About 40%, $40,000 per year to about $150,000 per year is the cost of abroad education. If you are studying in India, we've just seen how much of cost is increasing, and it will continue to increase. There is another element. Anyways, the cost of abroad education is very high today itself. It's about $40,000 tuition fee to about $150,000 tuition fee per year, depending on which you are going for undergrad or postgrad, and Ivy League or not Ivy League, where you're going for a research-based course like MS, or you're going for a management course, or you're going for a specific certification course. The costs are very, very prohibitive. It ranges from anything between 30-40 lakh rupees to about 2 crore rupees, 1.5 crore rupees, right? Over and above that, we have living expenses, which ranges from about $12,000 in US to about $18,000 per year. Then you have electricity, groceries, calling cards, internet, cell phone, restaurant meals, entertainment, car insurance, petrol, weekend activities, shopping, all of those things. So cost has been spiraling up everywhere, whatever education, especially college education, that you are trying to do. While the per capita income of India continues to be at about $2,000 per annum, the costs have almost gone up anything between 400-500% to about 1,500-2,000%. And this gap between cost going up and affordability is not going as fast as cost, is making people drop their plans, and making parents also feel very, very anxious about how are we going to actually fund our kids' education. Let's go, Anusha. What are the components of child's education finance? What does it consist of? Yeah, let's go. So components of education are tuition fees, living expenses, medical emergencies, if any, and others like you're doing some project, you're going from some exchange program, you're doing some tutorials, you're doing some additional tuition classes, so on and so forth. But large chunk of cost are tuition fees in higher education. About 70% constitutes tuition fees, and about 20% are your living expenses, the mess and hostel and so on and so forth. Out of whatever cost I'm saying, with few lakh rupees to a crore rupees, this is going to be the component of requirement. What are the sources of this fund? Where will this money come from? Where does this money come from, right? There are some 5 to 10% people who will get scholarships. There are some people who will get grants and financial aids, which is very, very low, because the budgets for any universities or agencies who are giving scholarships and grants are very limited and finite. While the number of Indian students, there are about 4 million Indian students studying in only higher education system. Our gross enrollment ratio is only 30% in India, which is one of the lowest actually, which means that all Indians between 18 to 23, only 30% are opting for higher education. That is called gross enrollment ratio. And large chunk of reason why 70% don't do that is because of finance. So these are the sources, and this is how the money comes from. So large chunk of money, some money comes from savings, parent savings, some money comes from scholarships, some money comes from grants, some money comes, but a big chunk of this money of higher education has to come from financing or student loans, right? Let's keep going. How to fund it? There are different ways, and for initiated students, for students who are passionate about taking their own responsibility and contributing to their own cost and not placing all the burden on their parents. The students also do internships side by side. A lot of students, the person who is assisting me, Anusha, actually is in IIM Kozhikode, and she is an intern along with her studies, she is an intern with Kuhoo right now. She is a marketing intern. So a lot of students do internship to that not only gives them good exposure and experience, but also give them some money. Then assistantship, part-time and full-time job, and the final is how to fund it is student loan. Let's go, Anusha. What kind of scholarships that are available? Largely two kinds of scholarships. One kind of scholarships are merit-based scholarships, which actually requires the past academics scores have to be very, very high. Very few people get it. CAT or closer, you know that top 25% of Indian students, high IQ Indians, actually are more than the entire population of a lot of countries, about 100 countries in the world. So the need is very high, the merit is very high, competition is very high. So there are some merit based scholarships, there are some need based scholarships. So the need based scholarship, there are a lot of governments actually provide need based scholarship. There are state government schemes which run for students who come from below a certain income level and all that. So there are two kinds of scholarships available: need based scholarships and merit based scholarship. The challenge with most of the scholarship is the information is not easily available. So students who are eligible also don't get the benefits because they don't find the process easy, or they don't find how to apply for those scholarships and all that. But there are a lot of universities, they run their own scholarship program. There are a lot of governments, they run scholarship program. There are a lot of corporates that run. There is a Kotak Mahindra scholarship that run. Tata runs a lot of scholarships and all that. So it's always advisable for students to search when they're planning financial education, search for whatever scholarship possible within that category, either in merit or in need. Let's go, Anusha. On-campus employments, what kind of employments? Now the world has changed rapidly. There are a lot of options available for Indian students, either abroad or in India. Assistantship, there are teaching assistantship which are available. There are research assistantship. These are the assistantship where the professors are doing their research and they're writing papers, and they need students to help them with a lot of work there. And they pay some money per hour, per week kind of thing. Then in internship, there are a lot, like I was saying, there are corporate internships now available. I was talking to BITS Pilani students some time back, and I was conducting a webinar for them, and I realized that about 30 to 40% of BITS Pilani students in third and fourth year, about 40% BITS Pilani students were doing simultaneously 2-3 internships while studying. So a lot of those options are available, tour guide operators and so on and so forth. It is for the people who are initiated and wants to actually do something, right? Then there are, let's go. Then there are some off-campus employment available for students. They're called OPTs, optional practical trainings, curricular practical training, severe economic hardship training, international organizations, multilateral agencies like ADB, WHO, IMF. They run a lot of off-campus employment for talented students. It is important to search all your options before you commit to your course and you are planning your finances around that tuition and living expenses. Let's go, Anusha. Very interesting question is, while as I said initially when I was starting the presentation, there are about 8 to 10 years I'm seeing Indian awareness of Indian students and their parents have gone up significantly, and they started planning much earlier in life. They start investing into mutual funds, insurance plans for education and all that. However, not everything can be planned because a lot of unforeseen circumstances happen, for example, and that causes cost of education to go up. One of the reasons, let's go, Anusha. One of the basic reason of education cost going up is inflation. There are large campuses that education institutes have created. They have infrastructure now. Almost every classroom, whether in school K-12, whether in undergrad, whether in MBA, whether in research colleges, whether in training institute, most of them are now better infrastructure available, AC classes, electronic boards and all that. That costs something, and that the cost is then passed on to the students. The faculty costs and salaries have gone up. Inflation This time after COVID and post-COVID, the inflation is the highest in last 40 years in Europe and America. It is highest in last 15 years in India. And that is causing a lot of pressure on education cost as well. The entire budget of every household, big chunk of this household income will go into education related expenses for their kids. Actually, after the basic needs, India is a very, very unique country. Culturally, we value education for kids a lot. This is the only route our parents have seen, and we think that this is the only route to prosperity and changing the standards of living. So culturally, we value education a lot as Indian system and Indian tradition. And this is the only country where the second highest expense is education expense, and third is medical, and which is very unique. That means, in other words, if somebody is ill in the family and they need to buy, and they have limited resources, they need to buy medicine, or they need to pay fees because the deadline is coming, and there is a choice to be made, they will invariably make choice to pay fees and not go to a doctor. And that's very unique to India. So second highest household expense in India is education. And that now pressure is coming because of high inflation that, I beg your pardon, that will keep going up. And that's why you see when we saw the graph of education costs going up drastically, that snake going up in the graph is because of inflation. And this is unusual inflation in next 1 or 2 years that we'll see, and that will cause severe. The other thing is, if you're planning your education abroad, other than inflation, there is another thing which impacts actually cost of education, which is rupee depreciation. So when I started Credila in 2007 and we were giving student loan, the rupee to dollar conversion was about 44 rupees. It is about 75 plus rupees, and it keeps varying between 8 to 10% and that is almost the same 100 rupee cost is now because 200 rupees cost of the same course, actually, just because of currency depreciation, right? So the cost will keep going up. It is very important to plan. Let's keep going, Anusha. Why should one take education student loan? Even if you can afford it, even if the family or parents can afford it, it is advisable to take at least some education loan or student loan. There are three primary reasons for that. Let's go, Anusha. First reason is all of us come from middle class families, Indian families. Our parents have done a lot for us. They've sacrificed their own well-being. They've sacrificed their dreams, their aspirations, just to fund our education till our undergraduate state or our school, right? And if we have an option of taking our own responsibility and become Atmanirbhar, it is important to do that. That is very, very important, because every time when the costs have gone up and you're asking your parents to still pay your tuition fee or living expenses either in India or abroad, what they are doing is they're compromising their future retirement plan. Actually, what they're doing is they're picking up money from their retirement kitting and giving it to you to fund your future, right? So it is important to become Atmanirbhar. Earlier, I could understand that student loans were not as easily available. Processes are still cumbersome. But when the options are available, it makes more sense to become Atmanirbhar. It also it also builds your positive credit bureau history, actually. And the credit bureau history is becoming so important that a lot of potential employers are now taking credit bureau history as part of their employment and recruitment process, like we do it. Because we are a financial services company, it is important for us to know the integrity and financial behavior of any employee. But a lot of non-financial services companies I know have started actually pulling bureau scores of potential employees. So it is becoming important for people to have positive credit history. When students pass out and join workforce and join corporates, they will need a credit card, a personal loan for paying their, they will move from one city to other, they'll need a two-wheeler loan, they will need insurance product. It helps to get the best product available if you have a positive credit history, and it helps if you have a small loan. If even if your parents can afford it, take your own responsibility, become independent, save your parents' future, build a positive credit score, which will go a very, very long way. And last, which is not the least, which is very important, I have personally seen in last 15 years and spoken to hundreds of parents and students, when a student takes a student loan, their performance in academics is relatively better, their performance in corporate life is relatively better, because they become responsible very soon. They think there is an EMI coming, I need to be focused on my work, I need to be focused on my studies and all that. So these are the reasons why you should take student loan. Even a little bit is that. Then what are the important criteria for student loan when you're searching for a loan? A lot of banks, and especially public sector banks, will ask for a collateral if the loan is more than 7.5 lakh rupees. A lot of you need to also understand how much is the processing time. You need to, there are two fundamental questions any student and parents have when they're doing the financial planning of themselves or their kids, right? There are two fundamental questions. Whether I'll get a loan or not is first question, and how much, if I get a loan, then how much loan I will get. For answering these two questions, a lot of banks and current lenders will take a few weeks, and actually it topples. The third thing which I've seen actually in last 15 years with a lot of students and parents, that they think when they start planning, they think, oh, this loan will be very easily available, let's go and apply when we get to it. And let's complete all of the process, admission, let's complete your exams, let's complete everything, and then we'll apply for education loan because it should be easily available. Nobody knows that it is a cumbersome process still in India to take. It takes anything between a week to 4 to 6 weeks just to get the loan application completed in a lot of banks. And they will ask for a lot of paper, your own personal identity, your parents who will probably stand as a co-applicant or co-borrower, your academic records, your passport details, your Aadhaar, PAN number, all of those, your backlogs and stuff like that. So financial document, bank statements, ITRs, a lot of documents are required. And you will have to go to branches, or the loan branches in your area, and a lot of banks have specified branches within a city who will cater. Even if, for example, SBI has, if I'm not wrong, about 300 plus branches in Bombay, but there are very specific branches in Bombay who will do education loan, right? So while they may take application in all branches, but it's very difficult to get through. So plan early instead of waiting that everything else will happen and then I will apply. So even if you want to apply, plan early because it never hurts. Third, apply to more than one bank or lender, because it never hurts to have an option ready. It is up to you to decide which one to take based on the product and what are the rate of interest and the deal conditions and all that, but never bank on sequentially apply that I will apply, try with my first bank, and then if they don't give me in next few weeks, I'll apply and go and apply to somebody else, because 99% of documentation is exactly similar for all banks. So when you are applying for a loan to any particular lender, whether it is a bank or NBFC or a fintech, actually do copies and apply to 3-4 of them, because it never takes time to apply, and then have options that always will put you in a better position. Fourth, actually there are some basic myths around student loan. People think that the sanction, I need to pay fees in semesters, but the total cost of education, let's say, is 10 lakh rupees and first semester fees is 2 lakh rupees. I will have to pay, when I take a sanction letter for 10 lakh rupees, I'll have to pay interest on 10 lakh rupees, while I will take only disbursement of 2 lakh rupees. A lot of myth around it. It is not true. You can take sanction of 10 lakh rupees, take only the amount in first semester, second semester, what is required. and only you need to pay interest or EMI only on the amount you have taken disbursement. If you don't take further disbursement, you will not be charged. So that is important to understand, that it's not an additional cost if you take higher sanction. In fact, it helps. If you're going abroad, a lot of universities and embassies actually treat sanction letter as proof of fund. They treat this sanction letter as proof of fund before allowing you visa or even universities at admission, because universities don't want student to drop out because you can't fund your education. So they'll give you admission. If in between a student drops out, it's a revenue loss for them. And that's why it is very important for universities and embassies to find out if before you enter, or they allow you to enter the country or the university, they would want to know if you can complete or you're financially capable of doing it. One of the reasons or ways to prove your financial capability is sanction letter. So take sanction letter as much as you can, and then apply for visa and take whatever amount you want. Then it applies in India as well. Then time of sanctions we've spoken about, eligibility we have spoken about. Try and go to lenders who can give you eligibility very, very quickly, so that you can decide your financial planning, that this much of loan out of the total cost I am eligible for. I need to arrange for the rest of the amount. So eligibility, find out anybody who can give you eligibility very quickly. Please go to them. Apply to more people. Also, a lot of students don't realize and parents don't realize that rate of interest is the only small one criteria of student loan. A process time, customized loan product, what is the repayment terms, are they flexible, do you have to go to branch every time you need to do any changes in your loan structure, do you need to go to a branch and or chase an NBFC 10 times when you are asking for an interest certificate, right? One of the other benefits of taking student loan is income tax benefit, right? All the interest paid on your student loan is exempted from your taxable income, and it applies to the co-applicant also. So if your father or mother is standing, or brother is standing as a co-applicant and a co-borrower in your loan, and they are paying while you're studying your interest on simple interest during education loan, then that income is exempted from their taxable income. And that is unlike a home loan. Home loan also this is available, but home loan, the cap of exemption is only up to 1.5 lakh rupees of interest paid. But in education loan, this is unlimited. If you pay 10 lakh rupees of interest in a year, the entire 10 lakh rupees gets exempted from your taxable income. So even if your rate of interest is less, let's say about 13-14%, the effective rate of interest will come down by 3 or 4% actually. So that's another reason why you should actually apply for other than those three reasons I said. So check all of these things. Check whether one of the very important thing is, a lot of Indian banks don't start a processing loan application if you have not got the admission confirmation, and that puts the student and parent in a fix, in a catch-22 or a chicken and egg story. Because what happens is, the universities are looking for proof of fund, and proof of fund are sanction letter, but banks are not allowing you to give you a sanction letter because they want the admission letter first. So a lot of NBFCs and bank don't process, but the newer companies have started processing loan application even before your admission has happened. That will help you allow to do that. And let me stop there and take some questions if there are any, or if I missed anything. Please go ahead.
So, Prashant, a couple of questions while you were speaking, I was noting down. The first thing is about this interest on disbursed amount versus sanctioned amount, the myth that you talked of.
Correct.
Is there something which says that if the sanctioned amount is 1 crore, at least on this minimum portion, we charge interest? Anything like that? Because in earlier bank loans, it used to be there, what you call MG.
That used to be called a commitment fees.
That's
for
right,
allowing, because it's a contingent liability. The sanction you've given, it's a contingent liability on the. But in education loan, it's not like that. It's largely an SME loan. So even if you have taken a 1 crore loan and you've taken only 20 lakh rupees forever, then you will be charged only on 20 lakh.
Fantastic. The second part of it is the tax deduction that you talked of. right? You said even the co-borrower would also get a tax concession, is what you said, right? Now,
Yes.
does it mean that even if you study abroad and you're likely to settle abroad, the tax deduction on the interest on education loan is available to the parent?
Yes, it is because you're taken an INR loan, Indian rupee
Okay,
loan from an Indian entity, and you are paying in INR the repayment. The
okay,
interest is coming in INR only, right? So
okay,
that's why.
okay, okay,
That.
okay. And also, earlier you also talked of the repayment capacity, and also we did allude to that, fleetingly. Can you tell me what is the amount of loan that you should take, or in the sense, like in Australia and all, you're told that you can't, your education loan repayment liability should not be more than 1/3 of your total income,
Yeah.
right? Is there some measure or some norm that students must look to when they're taking an education loan? Because at times the loan repayment is so high that they can't repay in that sense, right? So is there some norm that the industry has devised of आप इतना लोन ले सकते हो और जहां आपका सैलरी इतना मिलेगा in the first year of placement kind of a thing?
Yeah. So rule of thumb, they're very good question, Mahesh. While every loan product, every lender will have different policies, but rule of thumb largely is that it is assumed that above a certain threshold of salary, you will be able to pay anything between 20% to 30% to 50% of your net income as EMIs. And that allows you to then multiply and say how much of loan you will be given. And that's how the lenders, also the credit managers, assess the loan eligibility. So even if you have applied for, let's say, 1 crore rupees, and this does not fall into this rule of thumb, you will be told that, oh, you have applied for 1 crore, but your eligibility is 70 lakh rupees. So please take 70 lakh rupees, because I think this will be easier for you to service.
Very important thing that you raised, Prashant, which is about the eligibility, is what we're talking of, right? Is the eligibility based on the collateral which is given by the parent, or the security given by the parent in terms of a secured asset, or is it based on the possible repayment capacity of the student?
Look, brilliant question, actually. Thank you so much that you asked, Mahesh, because a lot of banks currently are deciding eligibility based on the value of the collateral and not the potential of the student, right? Why? Because it is impossible for banks to understand the potential income and potential employability. Some of the new courses that have come in last 10-15 years, it requires very focused research, very focused effort on lenders' parts to understand education as a sector and not finance as a product, right? So if, for example, at Kuhoo, we have thousands of courses where we have empirical data of last so many years of employment, job placement, their track record of 10 years of salary and income, how has it grown. STEM courses get how much of salary, so non-STEM courses get how much of salary, arts courses get how much. So because banks and traditional banks have limitation in assessing this, they can't assess the potential of student because assess the course itself, right? And that's where they have to go by collateral value as eligibility, and that restricts students from taking the right maximum potential, right?
Okay. So, Prashant, for my simple understanding, can you explain to me the difference between, see, because this loan is secured, has a collateral, it has a guarantor, right? How is it, and the interest rate at times is as good as what a personal loan would be. How is a education loan different from any other loan?
Yeah. So another very good question. So 2-3 things, right? Of course, first of all, moratorium. You will get, no other loan will give you moratorium during the course of principal moratorium. Most other loans, the moment they are disbursed, they will ask you to start EMI next month. In student loan, they will only ask you to pay very small, simple interest. And companies like Kuhoo, we actually deduct also that, because we are able to assess the potential of student. So even if the student is very bright and talented, and he comes or he or she comes from a very humble background, they can't service even the simple interest. What we do is we take 20% of the simple interest just to maintain the contactability, and it could be only few thousand rupees a month, right? And so first is moratorium. No other loan offers moratorium during the students, because student is the one who is going to be paying, and they can't pay once before they get a job. And that's the one first reason. Second reason is no other loan provides flexibility of a step and a step down. For example, in some of the companies, like for example, we have done some innovation in repayment, flexible repayment. So what we have said that in some courses, in some students, in some cases, students want, even after passing out, they want some lower AMI to continue for 2 years, because they think they want to save a little, they want to support their family, they are not very confident they'll get that much of salary. So those kind of flexible repayment options are not available with other loans for especially student education end use. Third benefit is income tax that we spoke about, right? No other loan will give you interest payment benefit, which is a huge economic benefit, right? Then so those are the basic reasons and differences between any other loans and student loans.
And because we're dealing with a collateral and a security and all, which obviously the child doesn't have, but the parent has, is it better for the loan to be in the parent's name or in the student's name, Prashant?
Student loans should be in student loan as a primary applicant because of 2-3 reasons. Parents, look, usually if you're taking a higher education loan, the parents' age is anything between 50 to 55, 56, right? And so they are retiring in next few years, maybe during the time or just after the student completes the course. So they will not be in a position to repay anyways, right? Because the loan is large and the repayment will be. So it is very important the student becomes the primary applicant and parents become the secondary applicant. However, in the today's world, Mahesh, I also want to bring in very important while we are talking about collateral. A lot of large loans in students now up to 50, 60, 70 lakh rupees, we have started giving as non-collateral also. If the university and course is very good and the student is brilliant. For example, somebody with 8.5 CGPA going in a good engineering college, going for a Carnegie Mellon course or a London Business School course or something, these kind of things are available at without collateral also. Even 30-40 lakh rupees are now almost a norm without collateral. But that is not available with banks largely. That's available with the private players.
Okay. Within the education loan category, Prashant, are there different products suitable for different people, or is it that it's customized as the student walks in?
So most of the banks loans, which are public sector and other, largely public sector is the largest player in this segment, are templated not for the student, for a particular course or a segment. So whether you are a great student or you're an average student, largely you will get similar treatment, right? You are going to an amazing university, you are going to an average university, it will be more or less similar, right? But new age companies who know the difference, right? We were talking about whether ability to evaluate course quality and university quality and student quality. Because they are able to do that, they can personalize at every loan level at scale actually. So for example, I can personalize a set of 5 students going in the same universities may get different rate of interest because of their profiles, backgrounds, their existing test scores, their work experience. A lot of students actually come with nowadays with work experience for higher education, and we must and we should give the benefit of work experience to them. All of these benefits are given to students when making a deal.
One very important question before I throw the floor open for students is, of course, some of the questions that are coming in are through the chat, so I'm taking it. Prashant, is it a stamp of approval when a loan is being given for a particular course, in the sense that is there some kind of an acknowledgement that the course and the college that the student is going through, a basic background check has been conducted and it seems to be decent, because of which a loan is being given? See, because normally a loan is given based on the ability of the consumer who's taking the loan, right?
Absolutely.
But in this particular case, you're also possibly assessing the institution or the course. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely brilliant perspective and question again, Mahesh. Absolutely right. No lender would like to give a loan to XYZ course which is not recognized, which does not have any record of placements, which does not get good jobs for students and all that. So in a different way, it does actually endorse a course if the loan program is available, whether public sector or private, doesn't matter, but every lender actually does some kind of due diligence of any course and university. So it does some filtration also.
Prashant, one question that's coming in just now, it's come to me, is that a lot of banks, when they give a loan, they normally give it to their normal customers, people who've been banking with them for ages, right? So is that the way it normally happens, that, if someone wants to take an education loan, first they approach their own bank that they've been banking it for ages while they approach their private lending companies?
100% of the times, because you have better comfort, somebody there, you've been going there for doing some of the banking works and all that, and it is not wrong at all. I think it's a good practice. Just go and check with your existing lenders. If you do get it, you will get it better rate and all that. However, what you should not do is only stop at there. As I was talking earlier, while you should do that, whatever your existing banker is, please go and check with them. Invariably, my experience is because this is a new product relatively in Indian financial services now, or last 10-15 years got some traction and all that. But still, the process is very cumbersome as we were talking, checking eligibility, what kind of process is there, how much time will it take. If you are only banking and putting all eggs in one basket and banking only one bank, you may be actually disappointed, and you may then scurry for something when you are running against deadlines of visa, you're running against deadlines of your admission in India, you're running against deadlines of fee payment, and you don't have a loan. So it is important, while you're doing that, it's a good thing to do. It is important to also apply for some private players, because they know this space well. They are specialized players. They only do this. Banks have 20 other, 30 other, 40 other, 50 other products to take care of, though they can't dedicate resources here, right? So that's why they take more time. So it is like that.
In terms of the security, Prashant, government also has made education loan a priority sector lending in a sense, right? But only up to 7.5 lakh rupees. I think that's the ceiling that they have. Is the interest rate for a student who is wanting to study within the country and within the 7.5 lakhs, is it dramatically lower as compared to someone who's taking a study abroad loan?
The rate of interest is largely, especially the private players like us, actually. Most of the other banks have very templated product that if you are studying in India up to 4 lakh rupees, you will get this rate of interest, and you will get without co-borrow. Up to 7.5 lakh rupees for banks, you go to any bank website, all 100% of the products similar, because they're based on the IBA guideline. So there is no difference there. However, for private players, the rate of interest is decided on three things: the quality of students, which is a function of past academic track record, test scores, for example, GRE, GMAT, CAT, TOEFL, IELTS, SAT, so on and so forth, right? So your test scores, your work experience, if any, internship, projects, work experience, there's a weightage to that, and your future university ranking, course, college ranking, and all that. So it's a combination. The first parameter for rate of interest is quality of students, which is combination of all these factors. Second is if they are asking for a co-applicant. If the product requires a co-applicant, if the larger loans, larger than 5-10 lakh rupees loans, will always have a co-applicant, which are usually the parents. If the quality of profile of parents are much higher, for example, somebody's father or mother is earning 5 lakh rupees per month, a very strong, robust salary, then there is a huge weightage given to them. The bureau scores are very high. So there is a huge weightage. So combination of these factors decide the rate of interest, because this is how lenders perceive their risk. Because this is how the quality of student tells us whether the student will be able to get X amount of salary or not, which is important for repaying loan. So the rate of interest depends for private players like this.
There is a question based on something that you mentioned earlier, Prashant, about private players. Private players for study abroad, they facilitate loans and help with ease for obtaining. How can we decide that they are reliable or not?
Yeah, so most private players, almost all private in India, RBI, Reserve Bank of India, actually awards license to every lender, and that makes it a bona fide lender in India. So whether you can trust or not, first parameter is, are they uh, licensed entities by RBI or not, or at least they have partnership with a licensed entity licensed by RBI. That's the first parameter. Second parameter is their existing students who have taken and parents that have taken loans, so testimonials. Third parameter is academic institute participation, right? Are they partnered with some of them? Fourth parameter is, who are the management, leadership, board members of that entity that you've approached to. You should go to the website, see about a segment of any lender, and they'll tell you who are the board members, who are the management and leaders. For example, in India, there are very few, a small group of people who are specialized and expert in student lending. And that gives credibility. That means they know what you may be requiring, what your needs are, and they will give you the right product because they've been dealing with it for a long time. So these are 4 or 5 things that you can do to test the trustworthiness of any entity you're dealing with.
This is from a person called Reddy. His question is, sir, I don't have any fixed asset to provide as guarantee, but I still need a loan. What should I do?
Yeah, so depending on you, not necessarily, as I was saying, there are a lot of companies now give without collateral or fixed asset. I don't know which education. If you can tell me which education you are planning to do and which course and which college, then I'll be able to tell you which country, which college, which course. I will be able to tell you very quickly whether you will get a without collateral, without fixed asset loan or not. Completely person control.
But typically, a generic question, Prashant, if someone doesn't have a fixed asset but they still want to seek out an education loan, what should one do?
So they should then, I think their first preference then should be private lenders to check first whether they have a product for them or not, regardless of which course they are going, because banks have a very specified and templated version of product that up to 4 lakh rupees without fixed asset, without co-borrower and fixed asset, up to 7.5 lakh rupees without fixed asset and co-borrower. But within that also, there is a very specified list of universities and courses they will give loan to. So if it is a new course, for example, a data science course, a lot of universities who have good universities and good courses, or new universities have come up with new kind of courses, AI, ML courses, data science courses that may not have got included in the bank's list of approved institutions. And there you will find it very difficult to get these loans without any fixed asset. So as a general rule, private entities are largely providing loans without collaterals up to 10, 20, 30 lakh rupees, and you should explore that option.
There was this one question, I think, based on the question that we've got, is that suppose if there is some kind of an eventuality and the student is not able to repay the loan or misses a few EMIs of the loan, then what is the way forward for a student? I mean, what does the bank do, or what does a financial institution do, and how should one tackle this situation? Because it does happen sometimes, for students. I think that is the query that has come.
Yeah. No, it's a good question, and it does happen. You're never sure about your life and your medical emergencies or something happen. So there are a few things which come into play here. most loans now comes with some kind of insurance, either the personal insurance or accident insurance or life insurance, or even in some cases credit insurance. So even for a couple of EMIs or 3-4 EMIs you miss, the product allow you that the insurance company will pay those EMIs. So that is first option, that you should opt for insurance, whatever options are available. That saves a lot of pain in future. Second option is that in some cases where you are genuinely out of job for some reason, because you one gets into an accident or something, then if your intent is not wrong, and if you are very proactive, you're not evading, you're missing the EMI, but you're not evading the lender. You go and talk to the lender and tell them, and honestly, this is the status. Most lender will actually restructure the loan or give you options of doing some other EMI, or paying in a bullet form or something like that. But most important here is to be very transparent of your situation with the lender. If you start evading, then life becomes more difficult, right? Then lenders will have to take some legal course of action. It has impact on your future also, career, and regardless, the bureau scores will get impacted if you start repaying, because every lender by law actually have to report how many people who borrowed from you are paying regularly and how many are not paying regularly. If they're not paying regularly, their credit score will keep going down. So that you need to be aware of, and try and find out a situation where you are at least paying minimum amount due or something.
Correct. Like doctors, be transparent and be truthful.
Exactly. Doctors and lawyers, with your lenders also, be absolutely transparent and they'll come to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When the student starts repaying 5 years, 10 years hence, and there is obviously interest component in that, does the tax benefit continue till the education loan is completely repaid?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So if I repay it over a 25-year period, for 25 years, I have the tax benefit as far as the interest expense is concerned.
Yes. As of today, that is the no.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. If it changes tomorrow, then
so that's okay. But I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Gauri, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. There is just one question that we have before we sign off, is that which banks are good for availing an education loan and trustworthy also?
So all public sector banks are trustworthy. All private banks are trustworthy. Only challenge is they may not have a range of product, or their processes may be very, very cumbersome. Other than that, I think you should explore. All public sector banks are trustworthy banks, actually, as long as you get a loan from there. If you get a loan, then they are trustworthy. The trust is not an issue.
I think most importantly, Gauri, what Prashant, if I were to summarize what Prashant has said, education loan being taken by the student is very important. This is something that I've never considered, but when Prashant was saying, I did realize you become more responsible and own up to your things, and to that extent you become more sincere, possibly, because that's a burden on you. And two, it also ensures that your parents are not living on arms later. At times parents do give in everything, and then they don't know what to do later because the child doesn't. So I think education loans, assuming you need to take a loan to fund your education, assuming, right? The good thing would be if you don't need a loan to fund your education, you get scholarship, you have own money, that's fantastic. But if you actually have to take an education loan, I think it is better for the student to take the liability on themselves than pass it on to the parents. That's the first part of it. And two, explore all options. The public sector banks, the private sector banks, and the private institutions also. It is for you to decide which one is better once you have all the offers with you.
Correct.
But explore all options, right?
Yeah.
And three, most importantly, apply early and apply to the maximum limit, because you're going to pay one interest only on the disbursed amount and not on the sanctioned amount. And an approval of a loan doesn't mean that you need to take that. So it is important that you keep your letter with you as an appraisal letter, because it also helps you in the admission process, as Prashant said. And two, even if you need 30 lakhs, take 40 lakh as an approval letter. Maybe you need it, maybe you don't need it, maybe you will only consume 15 lakh rupees. But take that amount, because it's important enough for you to secure yourself, because again, the college also looks at it as a comfort for them to give you admission. That's what I understand. And most importantly, in education loan, you have tax benefits, you have moratoriums. The product is sensitized towards education and repayment ability of the institution from where you're studying. So in a sense, it's a stamp of approval of the institution, the course you're taking, and the possibility that you'll repay. All these three, there's a general stamp of approval is what it comes down to.
Brilliantly summarized. I couldn't have done a better job, Mahesh. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Prashant. It was wonderful talking to you here. I'll at some point in time we'll also do Q&A with students only when the admission season starts. I'll call you in, and maybe then we can help the students personally also.
100%, anytime. It will be my pleasure actually.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, students. Thank you so much for joining in today.
Thank you, everyone.